Welcome back, guys. My name is Matt and welcome to my first video of 2014, and to kick it off we're going to go with a PC tour as I promised in my setup tour. If you haven't seen the setup tour, go check it out now. This is kind of the other half of it, just focusing on the PC and the parts inside of it. Remember that there is a link in the description taking to a parts list, which will have every part of my computer on it, the price I paid, and then a link to it if you want to buy it yourself. But also keep in mind that this PC was built last summer, so a few of the parts are outdated. So let's get into the tour of my PC. For my CPU, I'm actually rocking an Intel Core i5-3570K, and I picked it up for 190 bucks at my local Micro Center. The 3570K occupies a nice sweet spot between speed and cost. It's an Ivy Bridge quad core that comes with a base clock of 3.4 GHz, but I have mine overclocked to around 4 GHz with a small bump in the voltage. I stopped at 4 GHz because it really is plenty fast for my needs, and it never goes above 70 degrees Celsius. I've never really had a problem with it bottlenecking in a game, and it basically flies through any Sony Vegas render I throw at it, so I don't need to go any faster just yet. If I were to build this PC again today though, I would pick up a 4670K just because it is the updated version and a bit faster and around the same price point. To cool that CPU, I picked up a Phanteks 12DX cooler for about 50 bucks. I got it right when it came out and I've been loving it so far. This is one of the first budget-oriented Phanteks offerings, and I decided to jump on it even though it was new to the market and hasn't been reviewed much. To my pleasant surprise, it was an incredible cooler. It looks great with my black and white color scheme, has two good fans, was incredibly easy to install, and performs phenomenally. As I said before, it keeps my 3570K under 70 degrees Celsius even at 4 GHz. For my motherboard, I went with the Gigabyte Z77X UD3H motherboard, and I actually picked it up for 105 bucks at my local Micro Center. First and foremost, I got the great price of 105 bucks from a Micro Center bundle. It offered 40 bucks off a motherboard if you buy the 3570K as well. There isn't much to say about this board really. It's got a great color scheme, quality components, cooling, overclocking support. It's really just a solid board overall, and I'm extremely pleased with my purchase. In terms of memory, I picked up 8 GB of Crucial Ballistic Sport 1600 MHz RAM for only 40 bucks at my local Micro Center. Screw the raising price of RAM. A year ago, I got 8 GB of RAM for 40 bucks, and now you'd get half the amount of RAM for the same price. I only got 8 GB because I plan to upgrade to 16 GB, but due to this astronomical price, I'm going to stick with 8 GB until my next build. For my storage, I actually have two SSDs inside of my PC and a hard drive. The first SSD I have is the Samsung 840 series 120 GB edition, and I picked that up for 80 bucks. Now the Samsung 840 series is generally pretty slow for an SSD, at least in terms of write speeds, but I still wanted to pick it up as a boot drive because it does have over 400 megabytes per second read speeds, and that is what you notice with an SSD, and Windows 8 just flies on it. The hard drive in my system is a Western Digital Caviar Blue 1TB hard drive that I picked up for 70 bucks. I ran out of space on that Samsung SSD pretty quickly, so that's why I picked up this 1TB drive. It has a lot of space in it and it was pretty cheap, so it's kind of perfect for games and videos and stuff that doesn't really need the speed of an SSD. And the latest addition is a 120 GB Kingston V300 SSD that I picked up for 70 bucks. So during Black Friday, there was this Kingston SSD for 70 bucks, and that's an incredible deal for a really fast SSD, faster than my other one. So I jumped on it and I installed the Adobe suite on it, which I should be changing over to fairly soon. For my GPU, I'm rocking a 2 GB Asus GTX 660 Ti that I picked up for $240. This is sort of an interesting topic for my PC. A lot of people think that the 660 Ti is underpowered and can't handle new games, but that really is just wrong. It can play all the games I play on Ultra with the exception of just a few like Crysis at more than 50 FPS average. Now I used to have it heavily overclocked, but now I run it at stock because a few of the newer games like Call of Duty Ghosts don't really run properly when it's overclocked. As for the card itself, the Asus DirectCu 2 model, it's really nice. It runs quiet with the two fans, has good overclockability, has a black PCB which I really like, and a great heat pipe design to make it an overall kick-ass card. One of my favorite parts about this build is the case. I went with the Corsair C70 Arctic White Edition, and I picked that up for $90. I think any video that I mention my PC, I get at least one comment asking about the case. I love this case. The Arctic White Edition of the C70 has an awesome white and black color scheme which matches my build perfectly. The build quality itself is superb, being almost entirely metal. There's a ton of cable management space, the holes have grommets, and in general the case is very spacious and is a pleasure to work with. My one complaint would be that it is a bit loud since it has a lot of holes in it to promote good airflow, but I would say that's a good trade-off. Oh yeah, and I also took out the side panel window, rotated it 180 degrees, and reinstalled it so the clear part without fan mounts was over the CPU and GPU, which I want to be able to see more clearly. For my power supply, I went with the Roseville Capstone 650 watt unit, coming in at 80 bucks. This PSU is basically perfect on paper. 650 watts, 80 plus gold certified, and semi-modular, all coming in for 80 bucks. That's a great deal under any standards that you have, so I picked one up. I did in the beginning have a small issue with a buzz noise, but that stopped after a month or two, so it's been good since then. In terms of fans in my system, I rock 6. I have 4 Cougar turbines coming in at a $25 for all 4 of them. I have a cheap Enermax fan from Micro Center, and then I have one of the stock Corsair fans that came with the case itself. My fan situation is pretty basic. I use every fan slot I can, and I run them all at a slower speed to minimize noise. I use 4 awesome Cougar turbine fans, a random Enermax fan, and then one of the rather crappy Corsair stock fans. In terms of cables, I actually bought white cable extensions from NZXT for 25 bucks. A lot of you have probably noticed that I use the cable extensions. They look a whole lot better than the stock PSU cables and are individually sleeved to improve the aesthetics even more. Also, to improve aesthetics, I picked up the NZXT Hue lighting system for 30 bucks. The Hue gives me some great customizability. It can output any RGB color, has a bunch of modes to choose from, and has a few different brightness levels. Overall, it's an awesome lighting product for a pretty competitive price. Another NZXT product I got was the NZXT Sentry Mesh fan controller for $20. This fan controller is pretty basic, but it gets the job done. It has 5 fan sliders, all linearly adjustable. I usually keep them at the lowest level to keep things quiet. It's also worth mentioning that the white power light bleeds through to the sliders, and some fans are not completely compatible. And lastly, I picked up Windows 8 64-bit for $100. Windows 8 was probably the easiest decision of the entire build. It is flat out faster than Windows 7 and has some other advantages. I have since updated to 8.1, but regardless, if you are building a new PC, go with Windows 8/8.1. That's going to be all for this video, guys. I wanted to thank you for watching and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts on my PC. Tell me what I should upgrade next. I am looking to upgrade it. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Matt, and as always, stay classy.